Hi, everyone, and welcome. I am Joanne, founder of Animal Communication Insights and author of Conversations with Companions. I'm so excited to share with you something special today. We are launching 2 new digital card decks that are all about helping you connect better with your pets and animal companions. First, let me tell you about the Animal Communication Conversations cards. This 62 card deck has a bunch of questions divided into curiosity, concern, and contemplation categories. They are designed to help pet parents, animal communication enthusiasts, animal lovers move beyond the same old questions and dive deeper into meaningful conversations with their pets and animal companions. Then we have the Animal Communication Deep Speak cards. This 44 card deck is all about encouraging intuitive communication without worrying about getting the right answers. Whether you're just starting out or have been communicating with animals for a while, these cards will help you practice and explore in a fun and creative way. Today, I am thrilled to be chatting with members in my community who are involved in the creation of these card decks. And we will be discussing some of the surprising and meaningful insights that they have gained through animal communication. We'll also talk about how these cards help take the pressure off and make communicating more creative, and how they can help anyone who's feeling stuck or unsure about where to start. Let's welcome Nicole and dive into this exciting conversation. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy our chat. Welcome, Nicole. Please tell us about yourself and who are the 2 featured animals in the Deep Speak cards.
Hi, Joe. I'm Nicole and I am a marketeer by trade. So for a living, I get to create lots of strategies and be really creative and have a good time drawing lots of things. I think for me, I've always been drawn to animals, but I didn't have my first dog, big animal, till about 10 years ago. And that's kind of what has inspired me to take on this journey with the Deep Speak community.
How did you come across animal communication in terms of finding out that's what it's called?
I was taking my dog Haiko to hydrotherapy, and the teacher, the hydrotherapist, sorry, she actually said to me one day, I took Haiko every week, and she said, "Can I have a conversation with Haiko?" And I said, very confused by what she meant, genuinely had no idea. And she said, "Well, I can't really explain it, but I just want to have a chat and I'll let you know what comes out of it." Now I know she was obviously asking my permission. And she came back to me a day later with this notebook of conversation saying I couldn't keep up with him. I couldn't get him to stop talking. This is what we spoke about. And she kind of basically went through loads of different areas with hikes that I wouldn't necessarily have thought about. And it just really intrigued me of how do you do that? Naturally, I questioned its authenticity, but I've always been really open-minded and I really love the fantasy of being able to communicate with animals. So I kind of just explored that further and then found alternative animal communicators that actually did communicate with Haiko. I loved it.
That's really interesting because you've already had trust in your hydrotherapist. And I'm gathering from what you've just told me that you had no idea that she could talk to animals. But I love the way that she offered it in such a way that didn't make you feel like this was weird. It sounded like it was quite natural. It made you curious. So you said yes. And then next thing you knew, out come this notebook with all this information on there. So I like the way that she introduced animal communication to you without formally going, "Oh, by the way, I'm an animal communicator and it's telepathic," because that can put some of us off a little bit if we're not used to it. So I like her style. So I'm glad she did that.
Yeah,
So
it sounds good.
from a kind of your, background as a marketer to, taking your dogs to hydrotherapy. So it sounds also as if you like to make sure your dogs are kept well in, good treatments and practices. How did you then end up in the Deep Speak community?
Completely by accident. So Haiko, my first dog, I always felt like I knew what was going on with him. So even without animal communicators, that came at very late stage in Haiko's world. And I always felt like he had an ailment in his right leg. He was retired from the military because of the incident. And I always felt like I knew when he needed something. And I felt like I knew things that vets didn't know. And I was constantly fighting this barrier. And then fast forward, and I met yourself at the end of Haiko's life. It was a sad first meeting for you and I, Joe, but it really inspired me to want to know more. I wanted to understand. I felt like I'd missed out on this opportunity with Haiko, and I wanted to understand how to do it. And I think you offered an introduction for me to join one of your afternoon sessions. And I just participated as a listener and was blown away by this community of people that was so brave in sharing what they got out of animals, and that the conversations were different. It was a little bit confusing because I was like, surely you'd all have the same. If you all ask them what their favorite color is, surely they're all going to say blue, but it didn't. And then it kind of just led my curiosity to understand how it works and why, and if I could do it, because obviously I've now continued to have animals. So
You come across as somebody who, once you're curious about something, you're like, I'm going to find out all about it. It's not that you are a skeptic. You do have an open mind, but you also got your head on your shoulders and you want to kind of understand how do these things work, and you're fascinated by people's experiences, so you don't dismiss them. So I think that that's something that's very powerful in terms the way that we can embrace animal communication is to just have that curiosity, and that open mind. So when you think about being in the Deep Speak community, one of the things that we very strongly in the community encourage is to recognize that animals want to present to us topics of conversations because we are more familiar with thinking we need to ask our animals questions. Is your leg okay? Are you happy? Did you like the food? Did you want to go on holiday? Will you miss me if I'm not home? And so it can feel as if it's a one-way question, answer relationship. So in a Deep Speak, we talk about the animals wanting to bring the topics, and we co-create questions with the animals because obviously, we've got to put it in the language and put it in grammatical, phrasing. So how does that, number one, how did that differ to what you imagine animal communication to be? And number two, how does that change the way you understand animal communication to be today?
my experience was very limited. And what you've just said is we would ask them a question. I think animal owner, the first question they would ask any animal communicator is, are they happy? We already know the answer to that. It's because did they look happy? The answer most likely is going to be yes. My experience with animal communicators was I always asked the questions. They may have slightly translated my question, but they always asked what I wanted to and then brought it back to me. I didn't understand that actually it would work both ways because I didn't compute that I'm not saying as a human, as a person, I was just very much, this is fascinating. Tell me everything. But actually, Deep Speak community, yourself and Pia Dad working with the animals, coming back to us with questions, not only do you get an insight into a different element of what may be important to them, but you get questions that can only inspire imagination. And I think that, Pia Dad said in one of your sessions, the imagination is the gateway to intuition. And it stuck with me because it's so true. And I think as soon as you are given a question that sideballs you, how can you not be curious about what an animal is asking? There's an animal in the deep speak deck that's been brought up, and it was a bird, and it said, all my feathers have a different energy. Let's talk about what colors they are. Well, I would never ask that, but what an incredible question. With the, oh, it's blue, it's green, you get the feeling, you get the sensation. And I think that is what the deep speak community brought to me. It's that it is so much more than a back and forth yes no answer question. It encourages you to explore the question, to not accept the first answer, but to ask more, ask the same question in different ways. So your feathers are this beautiful color pink. Does that pink feel any different to the color blue? You know, do they smell different? All of these different areas that just draw you in. And I think for me, that is what made the light switch go, this is not only a beautiful experience, but it's the most amazing adventure. And I just love an adventure. I get hooked.
Well, you just talking and sharing the example of the bird, you bring in a sense of adventure, you bring in a sense of joy, you bring in that sense of wonderment. And I hope that, you know, whoever's watching this will just get caught up in it and go, I want to communicate with animals. So what you've brought to mind is that we often think of communicating with animals as a conversation like we would have, like you and me. You know, we're talking and I'm receiving your words and I'm processing it in my head as words. Yet there's more to it. It's the senses, it's the visuals, the sounds, the smell, the taste, the emotion. And when we allow the animal to bring to us the topic that they want to discuss, it really opens up these intuitive channels, I believe. Do you feel that there's a difference? So say if I wanted you to communicate with my cat and I gave you 4 or 5 questions from a viewpoint of, is he happy? Does he want more? Does he like where he lives? You know, does he want a companion? And you communicate with my cat and he tells you the questions or the topics that he wants to discuss. Do you think that's a difference in terms of you as the communicator, you as the translator for the animal? Is there a difference in how you would approach my question to how you would approach, say, my cat's question?
I definitely think there would be a difference, because I think we tend to be quite closed off in our questions and we're very one dimensional, whereas your cat would probably be more explorative. So they would take me on a journey to give me the answer. And I think that is just the golden ticket. And that is something that, until try to stop understanding how it works and you just accept that it works and you let it in, that's where you get taken. So for me, I had a communication with a dog, and she was a beautiful dog. Her owner was confused why she appeared nervous in the home. She said, she's nervous in the home, I don't understand. So I touched base with this dog, and I said, you know, tell me about what happens. What, you know, why do you feel, this was very early in my communication journey, of which I'm only about 4 or 5 months. But I said, tell me about this nervousness in the house. And this dog come back and said to me, well, actually, I'm going to take you on a journey outside. And she took me outside and she showed me very vividly what she does when she's outside. She was running as fast as her legs could go. She was a beautiful dog with lots of fur, and she was running in a figure of 8 like an infinity. And it's almost like she would stop every now and then and do this in the wind. Pure joy. She took me on this journey of her adventures outside, and then said to me, so why do I want to be inside when all that's waiting for me outside? The interpretation that my human has is that I'm nervous, but actually I'm just impatient and restless, and that's where I want to be. And I think that is the difference in human questions and animal questions, or the dictation of how it comes back, is they send you smiles. You just have to be open to receiving it. Whereas humans, we want to know that we're doing the right thing by our animals, whereas our animals are very much hey, look, you can't do it wrong. Keep doing what you're doing, but maybe try this, because this could be really good fun. And I think that is a lesson that you learn throughout the journey within the community.
That's incredible, your explanation there. Thank you. So I think as I'm listening to you, what's come across is that when a person is asking the question to the communicator, we can't help but really what we're saying is, what can I do to fix a situation? Even if the question is my cat happy? There's a part of us that almost fears that our cat isn't happy. So what else can I do? You know, almost like, what is the resolution? What is the answer? Whereas our cat would be not focusing on yes or no, be, let me show you. Let me show you how I experience life. Let me show you how I experience the outdoors. Let me show you how I experience indoors. And the emotions I send you, the visuals I send you, the sensations I send you will actually answer your question. Whereas if we said, just answer the question, are you happy? They could just go, yes. And that'll be the end of it. Whereas the way that you're describing how this dog showed you, took you on an adventure, how rich that experience was, you know, for you. And we thank them for that. So you have Haiko in spirit and Didi as the featured animals in the Deep Speak cards deck. How does it feel to have them both in this card deck?
Well, I am bursting with pride. Haiko was my first dog. He was and still is my biggest animal teacher. I didn't realize it at the time, but he has guided me, and I'm sure he guides many others. He's a very authoritative figure, but very loving and very playful. For him to be in there, he changed my life. Like my animals make my heart sing. And to have them be able to help guide other people, you know, people who are either really experienced in animal communication or like myself, new into it, I'm really proud. It's very rewarding. Didi's a very different character to Haiko. She's all about the joy, all about the fun. And she reminds me every day. And, you know, her question in the Deep Speak cards is very much, I'm sure the answer that she'll give to people will make them smile. She can't fail to make people smile. So yeah, I'm very proud to have them both in there.
So think too, I know you said you haven't been long into this animal communication learning path, more from a formal aspect. So think about somebody who's in a similar position to you, fairly new to animal communication, also as curious as you are, but may not have had the Deep Speak concept or learned about the approach. They come across Deep Speak card decks and they've decided, I'm going to give it a try. And they shuffle the deck and they come to Haiko and they come to Didi and they look at the questions. What can you advise them with? How do they go about connecting with either of them or both of them? What would you like them, or what do you think Haiko and Didi wants to say to assure the person how they can go getting information or exchanging conversation with them?
So they're both very different, but they're both, I think the important thing to know, or a important thing to know about Haiko and Didi, is they are both from a working background. Haiko is, in his communications, he's quite direct, and he guides you with conviction for sure. Whereas Didi is very much keep it fun and you'll keep me interested. And I think that her messages come through a very light-hearted way. One thing that I learned both through Haiko and by other animals in our Deep Speak community is animals in spirit, especially Haiko, it's a softer approach. So just be relaxed. And, you know, it doesn't have to have so much energy. As a person, I have a lot of energy. So when I want to communicate with Haiko or with animals in spirit, I make a conscious choice to just take a breath and just join and feel the energy that is very different to, certainly to Didi, but I find different to an animal in body. And I think that Didi will probably send you lots of very fun images. She refers to herself as a stunt dog, so I'm sure she'll have a great time showing you all of her acrobatic skills.
Oh, thank you for those great tips. And I hope that that really, again, draws and pulls, you know, people into being curious about Haiko and Didi, both having such different approaches as well. So just as a reminder for those of you who want to purchase the Deep Speak cards deck, what's included in it is a 30-day membership, whereby you can come into our Deep Speak community. And this is why we're talking to Nicole today, because then you can get a sense of her, meet her virtually, hear her speak, hear about her experience with animal communication, and know that she's a safe person to share your communication that you get from Haiko and Didi if you wish, because the animals, their person, have committed to also be offering support and feedback if you want. So it's not like you're just going to get these cards, you got the animals, you got the questions, and you're on your own. We wanted to make sure that the way that we value the community that we have and the support that we get and encouragement, we want to extend that to you. So it's lovely that, Nicole, that you are here to talk about your experiences, your insights, and your fascinating journey into animal communication. And two of your beautiful dogs are going to be the animal teachers in the Deep Speak cards deck. So thank you for sharing about yourself and them.
Thank you, Jo. I've had a ball.